Right. I appreciate that. And you talked about what happened, and you started to get into, then we can create a new story, right? And the question is not whether or not we get through these things. It's just like, how much do we want to struggle through it, and how much time does it take? Like most of the things we get through in our life, but while we're spending time getting through those things, we're not, what I call in this seminar, living our dream. We're not working on that expression of our authentic self, that gift, that idea that we have to bring into the world. We're spending all of our time over here on this stuff, being stuck. And so, Jesse went some period of time that he told himself that story, because we're not aware of when we're telling ourselves a story. Like, we're in the story, it's real for us. So Jesse's story sounded something like, how did I get here? This wasn't where I wanted to be. I'm broke, I'm broken, look at other people, this is, et cetera, et cetera. And then now looking back, he can say, well, this is what happened. What happened is I was unprepared and I was going through life experiences. And if we want to, now we can actually create an empowering story of what happened. What we'd like to do is we'd like to do it kind of when the story's happening, right? But you could create an empowering story. What would an empowering story look like about your experiences? If you were telling the story of a hero, right, who emerged, and this was the turning point in his life, like, what does that story look like? It's very different, right? It's, I face challenges and I overcome them and I can handle whatever comes up for me in my life, and I know that I'm resourceful and I've made it this far. If I've made it this far, I can make it that far. These things always come up, but I know I can overcome them because that's who I know myself to be. And that's the empowering story. Now, here's what's interesting. When we have an experience, we know that what happens, we collect the experience with our senses, and that wires our brain, because we store the memory of that present moment experience anatomically, right? We see that these synapses connect with neurons to represent what we're experiencing. So, and that happens in the present moment. And then what the brain does is, in the future, it goes back and looks at the present moment and it grabs whatever memories it has and it brings it back to interpret this moment. So if we, in the moment, or recognize soon that we're in a story from the past that probably wasn't true anyway, and we create that new story now, what happens? Our brain records that experience. Jesse experiences himself of being the hero of his life and being unstoppable and being able to face challenges. Life is tough, but I keep getting back up. And that's how it's always been. It's how it's always been for all of us. Like, nobody's laying down here. I don't know where Eddie went. I thought you just ascended. So we create that memory. Well, what happens in the future when we come up against the next thing? When Jesse has a challenge? It grabs that empowering story that we created. That's how we rewire our brains. We're going to talk about that in a minute with neuroplasticity. And that's that idea of affirmations. People say, well, say positive things. Well, positive things to myself, does that really do anything? Yes! That's what it does. Because you're creating an experience now that you're storing, that you have access to in the future. You're changing your future right now by doing that. And, well, you can, right? But what happens is you leave the seminar and then you get caught up in your story again, and life's too busy and I don't have enough time and there's not enough. So you have to develop a practice of this. It's a skill. It's like anything else. If you want to play in the major leagues of giving birth to your dreams, then you got to practice it. In most of our lives, we've been practicing something different. And there are these frameworks for practicing it. This is what's so cool, and I'm trying to bring it all together so everybody doesn't have to go study every framework that's out there.